So we've had a long day of, a series of sessions, presentations, and panels, a very inspiring keynote from Kevin, and not to mention a very scary notion of digital earthquake introduced by Anupam. There is a particular theme which was common across all these discussions, and that is AI. This chart right here shows what a long way we've come from a rule-based, a very task-based automation to now AI agents managing, executing the processes end-to-end. Just 2 days ago, I had the opportunity to meet the AI and data lead at the Mark, and she was telling me how they are building low-code AI agents, enabling their teams to build these agents for themselves, calling it a zero-effort AI. We have definitely come a long way from low-code automations to a zero-code AI. A lot of tech companies, be it Salesforce, Microsoft, you name it, they're pouring billions of dollars into this technology. And it's not just tech. Non-tech companies, take for instance Zomato, from selling pizzas, groceries online, now they are selling an AI platform for customer support. I think this is not a new pattern. A lot of enterprises are going to jump on this bandwagon as they adopt AI, generative AI, agentic AI to monetize their data. So this is how we represent these agentic AI agents in our organization. We call it Synchronous AI, taking inspiration from a symphony orchestra. Just the way in an orchestra, you must have seen there are musicians playing specialized instruments. Similarly, in Synchronous AI, there is a network of these specialized AI agents playing to their strengths. They specialize in a particular domain. For instance, one would be building a code, another would be testing it, and at the same time, another bot is going to be deploying it. At the center, there's a centralized super AI agent that governs these micro AI agents. It manages the handoffs, the timings, just the way a conductor in an orchestra does. Now, all day I've been asked this question, what are the next trends in AI? What are the next set of advancements likely to happen? And to discuss all of that, I would like to call upon stage Anupam, Govil, and Akshay Khanna.
Thank you. Oops.
So Anupam, in the morning, of course, you spoke a lot about quantum and the disruptive technologies that are coming in. But the way I look at this chart, there's only 20% of adoption in terms of, enterprises running POCs or doing some experimentation in agentic AI. So where do you see this trend going? And also, it is very concentrated in industries like high-tech, media, telecom, who have been early adopters of AI, Gen AI as well. So these industries, they are, more disruptive in nature, right? They have a lot of risk tolerance. When you see and compare them to industries like banking or maybe healthcare, heavily regulated enterprises. So do you see this shifting anytime soon, or the disruptors in AI also going to be the disruptors of next-gen AI advancements?
Yeah, first of all, I think we are living in an age of exponential adoption. We've been used to linear rate of growth of adoption of any technology, right? By the way, I wanted to point out that Microsoft Windows 2000 came out exactly 25 years ago, February 2000, and and if you look at the trajectory, it has it has changed the whole ecosystem of how you operate applications and so on and so forth. But the adoption curve was relatively slow. RPA changed it and got faster adoption. Generative AI came and it was even faster. In fact, the fastest growing adoption in the history. Now, agentic AI is showing another sort of exponential curve. However, there are still a lot of barriers, right? End of the day, AI agents are just like any other human worker performing a certain tasks. So you need compliance, you need to manage the risks, it needs to be trained on the right use case, all of that, right? So for any company in a business critical function, whether it's healthcare or banking, it takes time for them to find that balance where they say, yes, it's working, I need to now scale this up. So it's happening, but it's happening right now. And as you pointed out, some verticals where, for example, in banking, fraud protection, right? Or in healthcare, pre-authorization, or, claims processing, where there is definitely a human in the loop, but 80 to 90% of that can be done almost as a straight to process without any human intervention. And this is not even about exception handling. This is about human in the loop that does some QA and make sure things are okay. So again, the adoption curve is rising very high. It's agentic AI is what, 6 months old? Not even 4 months maybe. So 20% is pretty good.
Akshay, what's your take on that?
No, I agree. I think it's coming faster than anything that has come before this, right? If you see any of the other earlier adoptions where our industry has actually been on that wave, whether it was cloud or social or analytics and so on and so forth. I mean, every day we're just trying to catch up with AI news. I mean, it's just that in itself is a big task. So I think there's both the push and the pull. I mean, just between the top 5 or 6 companies, and all of us get those memes on WhatsApp and LinkedIn's and all of that, because everybody now is an AI expert. But just the 5 or 6 companies are putting together, what, $300-400 billion of investment. They've announced, and it's real, capex by the Googles, the Microsofts, and so on and so forth. So there's that huge push that is coming out. And then I think the promise, and then that's where the board, the C-suite, is really very, very actively, as this kind of data shows and all the studies that we've done, they're embracing it. And of course there are challenges. Of course they are trying to figure out issues with, how to safeguard data, as is case in many things. It was the same case in cloud. They have to figure out issues around responsible AI and ethics of AI and so on and so forth. But I think that's all going to get solved, and it's not going to be a multi-year journey. I think it's just a few months of journey. Of course, there are use cases in some of these early adopters because of just they are, high tech, and others, folks like Google and some of the others have embraced it, leading it. But some of the others that you're showing here in moderate and low adoption, that's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time.
And also you're seeing in some of the, what now I call these AI native companies, like just you had digital native companies when digital was booming, 6-7 years ago. Now you have AI native companies that are built grounds up to be run by AI, not by people. So there'll be a few people, for governance and some, oversight and sales and all that. But the company is built around AI agents doing all the functions. And then, they are now coming out of the woodworks and really disrupting, whether it's again in healthcare space or in retail space, they're going to be swarming before we know it.
Right, but just to follow up to that, so since these are AI native companies, they're built lean, right? How about traditional companies, which are more people oriented? So how do you see those organizations transforming with this agentic AI impact?
Yeah, so the big, leg in the tent, the big pole in the tent is essentially the people and the cultural part of it, right? So obviously, there is a lot of impact when agentic AI used to, automate the whole end-to-end value chain in any function. There's also, of course, you have to look at the transaction cost, the training and the transaction costs, which, by the way, are dropping as we speak, right? So I think for companies, it's still a bit of a learning curve. They are seeing that there are some use cases on the customer side in terms of automating the customers' ordering of food, or Uber is incorporating it into their user interface. I've heard Alexa is doing it where it can automatically order Uber and build a whole itinerary so that you literally have to do nothing when you book a ticket. Right. In fact, it can even book the ticket for you, and the Uber shows up at your door. So all of this is happening at a pretty breakneck speed. Enterprises are coming a little bit slower just because of the impact on the workforce, on the cultural aspect, and the change management piece.
Yeah, so speaking of use cases, our research shows that 90% of these use cases are more back-end in nature, or remediation side of things. Because I think there's a lack of trust into these agents, and when that happens, of course, there will be a movement to more customer-facing use cases. IT, sales, and marketing, no doubt, they're leading in adoption. Also for a reason, because they were the first ones to get onto this, Gen AI bandwagon, and there is a lot of proven ROI there. They are agile in experimentation, and of course, some of these new age tools now, ITSM tools or ERP, CRM, systems, they now come embedded with these agentic AI solutions. So it's easier for them to adopt this technology without disrupting, their infrastructure. But do you see this adoption, just spread across these three departments, or there's more happening on other front?
So, I mean, my take is it has started with this, and the reason for this is, everything that you see on the sales side, a big part of that push is coming from Salesforce, right? Or other CRM companies, and similarly in IT and others. So that deep domain expertise that's required to bring agentic AI into this is coming from these platform players. So a large part of value, in my view, I think is going to be captured by these big tech companies. And I think the players in this room are going to be left behind because we are not able to capture that value that gets generated out of this push to these three buckets of adoption. But where I see the opportunity, and I think that's where the deep domain expertise, if we're running F&A operations or retail operations or HR operations
or function that you can bring to the client, purpose-built, and in some cases even pre-built, pre-trained. So they become your foot into the door of the enterprise and gives them the confidence that these things have been tested. So I know many service providers have this, they face this choice of, I don't want to go in and pitch something that's going to end up, maybe reducing my headcount by 60, 70%, which is happening in many cases. But this is an inevitability. It's going to happen whether you go in preemptively or not. And if you don't do it, your competition is going to do it. So the catch is, how do you capture the value? How do you construct a commercial engagement, which is based on some formula? It could be a gain share formula, value creation formula, outcome. There are different models that are emerging. But hesitating to go to your client proactively when you know that there is an opportunity just because you feel it's going to cannibalize your revenue, I think to me that's
just delaying the
inevitable obsolescence.
Because then in that case, the deal, the client will look at the renewal. They will see, well, I'm not getting all the productivity that the world is promising, or at least seems to promise.
Yeah.
So I would rather be proactive, be first, rather than being pulled ahead.
And I'll also say this, that actually we're seeing this appetite to pivot more in tier 3 and niche vendors right now. The tier 1, the tier 2, they're still, they have so much baggage, they have so much, legacy and internal forces. They're not able to pivot fast enough. These tier 3 niche vendors, they're doing it right now. We're seeing them walk into clients and, disrupting larger vendors. And that's one thing that you have to realize, that with agentic AI, size, location is no longer important. You could be a 100-person company doing the work of a 10,000-person company, right? So the stakes have changed.
I think just to add, the size, the locations, they don't matter, but the expertise that you have, whether a vertical driven or a horizontal driven expertise, that matters. And I think
Yeah.
going back to that, the earlier question you had, I think in any of these use cases, whoever has the expertise and can go out there in front and take that proposition to customers, I think that adoption is going to grow.
Yeah.
Right. So speaking of the mindset and culture, Anupam, you were referring to earlier. So all this research, this is based on some executive, interviews we did starting of the year, and this is the analysis we did, on that. So 40% of enterprises, they feel that workforce change management is their biggest challenge in adopting agentic AI. And then comes the cost, of course. So when it comes to workforce change management, of course, not all employees are comfortable working alongside AI, though we talk about human in the loop a lot. They view AI as a competitor, not as an enabler, because of the fear of job loss. And sometimes, if I can share a personal example, I've been asked a zillion times by Kevin to leverage more and more of these co-pilots that we've invested in. And my answer is always, AI is not smarter than me. And I'm sure a lot of you feel the same way on many occasions, especially at the point of time, when AI was hallucinating a lot. Now I think we've overcome that barrier. So there is a lot of resistance that employees are showing in adopting such tools. So that's the number one challenge. And then, of course, high computational costs, which are, of course, coming down. But then there's a lot of initial investment that goes into edge computation, right? Setting up low latency networks, because there is real time processing that needs to happen. A lot of multi orchestration of this agentic AI workflow needs to happen. So, do you see, Anupam, computational costs still being a high barrier now that DeepSeek and such low-cost open source AI models are emerging?
No, again, we are looking at Moore's law times 10 in in the space of generative AI. So the computing costs are going down, spiraling down significantly. DeepSeek was just the first sort of foray into changing the way models are trained, changing how many parameters you really need, right? Using cheaper processors, no matter where they got the processors from. So all of those things. But really, the point is here that with the pace of innovation growing faster and faster, it's inevitable that the compute time costs will go down. Both the training and the inferencing costs will go down. And there are new approaches that are emerging. I talked about LCM, which is large concept model, which will change the way again that you do, training and inferencing of concepts. So definitely the computing costs will drop significantly. There's also the emergence of small language models that are, purpose-built within certain industry contexts. So if I'm a drug discovery company, I can build an SLM that serves my industry purpose with my data sets. I don't need to, and that build it on my servers, or I can lease that from other firms. By the way, that is a big opportunity, which is offering AI compute as a service, not just the compute, but offering the entire platform, the stack, as a service. And that's one of the fastest growing areas of growth right now.
Right. So, Akshay, I think earlier you gave a comment on the contact center space, how Gen AI is impacting that area, especially in countries like Philippines. So, what's your take on workforce change management? Is there going to be a lot of job displacement that happens, or is there a way we can rescale, upscale all of them?
So I think amongst these six, challenges that we see, you mentioned, I think this was done and released as of last month. I think the second highest, the high computational cost is already out of the window. It's not relevant anymore, right? So that's to Anupam's point. I think that's the speed. I think none of these will matter except the workforce change management, in my personal view. That's the only reason that will. I mean, of course, there will be reasons. I mean, and challenges around responsible AI, but those are all solvable problems. Some of them will get solved in a few weeks. Some of them will get solved in a few months, but they will all get solved. The only challenge that remains is the change management, both for service providers to take this to their clients and for the clients. I mean, if you look at, for example, the Metas and the Googles, they've stopped hiring. Salesforce gone on record saying we are not going to hire any more people, right? Any new growth, they're saying, they've gone on record saying we're seeing 30-40% higher productivity in people. So they're going after it kind of in a strong, forceful manner. So I think that's the only challenge, and that's where clients need a lot of handholding. That's where I think we have to empower. If I look at people that are employed in companies that are here, I think they have to be empowered to think more creatively on how their job gets better, faster, smarter, using some of these agents, and then they will be the evangelists taking it to their customers, and then we have to navigate that challenge at the customer end as well. I mean, it's going to be a people and only people related challenge. Technology challenge, I think, will get solved. I mean, it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, I mean, when internet came, right, you had multiple browsers and you had the costs were high. Today, nobody even cares about the cost of internet. The bandwidth is literally free.
Yeah.
So I think AI is similarly going to go down that path and become a utility, and it'll be available, maybe not free, but quite inexpensive. And it won't even matter which model you're using. It could be hybrid. On the workforce side, I think that's where, as Akshay pointed out, there's a huge impact on the client organizations and also on the service delivery organizations that are here. On both sides, really, there's a need to rewire those tasks and functions and business processes. It's fundamentally different than RPA. When RPA came along, practically, you didn't have to really change the process. You just put it in there and it, did the work. With AI, you have to really rethink how the whole process should work and where do you really need that human in the loop, right? And that's what's going to really drive the productivity. And so I think that's the key challenge for the enterprises. For the service providers, I think as I mentioned in the opening comments, really you have to be now thinking about becoming AI first rather than people first. So the whole pyramid is flipping.
Actually, since you brought up RPA, I think we got past that RPA wave, and I think you had the challenge, the chart there. I think we got away with it by taking a band-aid approach to RPA, right? It was put a duct tape here, put band-aid here. We kind of came out of that thing. I don't think we can afford to make that mistake with AI. I mean, unless you really start thinking more end-to-end process, more vertical process, it's not going to work. And I think, and hopefully we don't, I mean, hopefully we learn from that experience.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a lot happening, in terms of AI. Agentic AI is just, one of those trends. A lot happening in terms of AI wearables, a lot of tech investments, Meta and so on, getting there. Robotics, humanoids, of course, and then you spoke of quantum. So, which is that next set of, tech revolution that you're more excited about?
Well, again, everything is converging, right? You have, IoT sensors, you have AR, VR, you have digital twins, you have, now quantum. So with each convergent technology, it unleashes a whole new swirl of opportunities. So it's very difficult to even predict what those use cases would be or what those innovative ideas or models would be. One thing is for certain that innovation is happening at a breakneck speed, and especially in the services industry, if we don't change and we don't go in proactively to our customers offering these disruptive service delivery models as well as engagement models, it's the writing's going to be on the wall.
So I think if one thing that I'm really looking forward to, and it's a lot of excitement happening, is really the entire humanoid space, right? I mean, this entire agentic AI is on the brain part of humans. The humanoid actually takes care of the physical tasks that humans have done. Of course, we've had robots in warehouses and factories and so on, but I think the way we're envisioning humanoids now, given the advancements also in kind of the materials and so on, but then also layering it on top with generative AI, with computer vision, all of that. I think to me that's I mean that's a pretty exciting space that I'm keenly watching, because that really fundamentally uh, delinks the count of humans to the productivity that they can drive, right? I mean, you have a factory, you need people to come in 3 shifts, but you could have humanoids working there, and they're getting better and better and faster. There are multiple humanoids already in market at $12,000, $15,000, $16,000 available. So I think that's like a piece of tech that I'm interested in, and that also would unlock. I think you talked earlier about this job displacement part of it. Now, of course, that doesn't directly impact the services industry, because that's not taking away jobs of people that are working in IT companies and BPO companies. But I think that will unleash a new set of opportunities, because now these are connected humanoids, devices that need a remote management. They need, just like connected cars and connected vehicles presented an opportunity. I think that will present an opportunity for this industry as well.
Right.
So,
Yeah, and I think there's also need for all the services companies to, as Kevin was pointing out, become tech enabled. And tech enabled doesn't just mean that you're delivering your services on a platform using AI, but it also means you're bringing in a lot of these other innovative, disruptive, some cases even emerging technologies with through startups and partnerships into that service delivery model. Because again, there is no company that can invest enough to drive that kind of innovation. And I know many of the companies are already taking that approach, partnering with startups, partnering with other tech companies to co-create and innovate new products by vertical or by use case. So again, this is really a different age that we're living in right now, and the whole thinking has to shift from people-led to AI-led, and that's not a simple switch, by the way. It's a huge shift from top to bottom, and it would also mean that you have to change how your sales organization works, how your service delivery, your queue organization, everything, top to bottom.
Right. So I think at this point of time, there must be some 500, 600, pure play agentic AI companies that exist in the market, cut across domains, specific industries, and existing, all these software vendors also integrating some of this. Traditional automation companies like Automation Anywhere, UiPath, they are also providing, multi AI orchestration frameworks as part of their platform. So a lot happening on this front. I think just one recommendation would be to maybe invest or partner with some early stage startups, something like Infosys did with OpenAI investment back in the day. So all this is becoming very exciting. Venture capitalists are investing heavily in these companies. So before the valuations, they just drive up. So I think this is the right time to get into the space.
Get into that, yeah. Also, I wanted to add that again, in the services world, there's so many different silos. You have system integration, you have managed services on the infrastructure side, you have application managed services, your QA testing, your product engineering. Each of those areas in itself is getting hugely disrupted. And in each space, while there is disruption happening, there's also an opportunity, right? And in the SI space, a lot of these big software vendors, they're going to get run you out of business. There won't be need for system integrators pretty soon. Agentic AI will do all of that. So rather than that business going away, you have to figure out how to proactively invest in the right kind of agents and go to your client and present to them a different approach, which is not people-led.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think we had a chart earlier in the day where it showed over a 15-year period how what's the share of budget that enterprises are spending on people versus applications. And I think those lines were almost converging or will converge in the next year or so. And I think this is, to your point, I think this is the same thing happening, right? I think these are the people who are coming after the managed services industry. So I think the key, like you were saying, Chandrika, I think is to get out ahead, either partner with them and become their GTM partners. They don't have client access today. That's the only thing that they don't have. But they have agility. They've built platform solutions. They're heavily funded, but they don't have as much client access today. And it's only a matter of time because clients are asking for it. So it's not even they have to go out and knock on 100 doors. The deal flow for them is happening quite rapidly.
Yeah, also these tech companies don't really understand business processes.
And how to integrate.
How to integrate. They do not. They look at this as a monolithic piece of software, and then they depend on the SIs to obviously go and implement it. But again, that's rapidly shifting. They're kind of eating into the services space. But rather than that, I think the services company now need to start thinking of themselves like tech companies. And again, Kevin had that slide of the value creation. So that's the only way to avoid your growth curve from taking a serious dip. You have to start thinking of yourself as tech companies or tech-enabled services companies rather than just services.
That's all from us, but as you can see, we are very excited about this new era of AI, and we'll be around, so happy to continue this discussion during